Hello, in today's video we'll be trying free-to-play gaming teams. We'll go through 6 variations, we'll talk about strong and weak sides of every team, and we'll try them against most annoying bosses in Spiral Abyss. What is the best free-to-play gaming team? Let's find out. Gaming, pretty good and solid 4-star, and right now we're having 4-star character selector in the game. You'll probably already choose one of them, but the beginner players seem to, and Xianyun is the best choice from this, but Gaming still would be one of the most popular characters to select, and he will be my choice too. I've already had him, so this will unlock his constellation 4. And even though Gaming is quite strong, his best team is quite coarse, with double 5-star and 1 6-star character in the team. But how strong Gaming is in the free-to-play team? That's the question. So today we'll try different free-to-play teams for Gaming, and we'll see what he can do without most broken supports in the game. Gaming's build. Let's start with a quick build. For the weapon today we'll use 3 variants. Rain Slasher will be used for the Vaporize team. If enemy can be affected with Hydra, this weapon's passive is really good. For the Mono Pyro team we will go Tidal Shadow. One of the best free-to-play weapons in the game right now, and Gaming can easily activate the passive. For the male team we'll go with Mailed Flower. In male teams Rain Slasher doesn't work, so Mailed Flower passive is way better choice for male teams. For artifacts I'm using Crimson Witch of Flames. Theoretically, Marachu's Hunter is a better choice, but practically on my account Crimson Witch outperforms Marachu's Hunter in every team. And yes, Gaming can activate passive for the full potential. Of course he will be Constellation 4 with talent 6, 11 and H. And for the stats, with different weapons we will have different attack and elemental mastery, but crit ratio will stay the same, 60-134. I have quite low energy recharge on him, but this problem could be solved with Constellation 4 and how you rotate and manage energy for the team. And this Gaming we will use for entire video today. Vaporize Gaming. Let's start with his most popular variation, Vaporize Gaming. And even though this is most popular team, this is the most problematic one. So let's see at other characters' builds and why is that. Let's start with Bennett. And for the weapon, Bennett is using Sapwood Blade and of course full Noblesse Oblige set for 20% attack buff. And with Sapwood Blade and talent level 13, he will give us 1050 attack. On top of that, he is Pyro activator for another 25% attack. And there are 2 problems with Bennett. First of all, Circle Impact. If enemy leaves the circle, we are literally losing half of Gaming DPS. Second problem is his burst duration, 12 seconds. In today's rotation we will use him first, and Gaming actually wants to stay on the field for quite long time. But the problem, in the middle of our rotation, Bennett's burst will be gone. Now let's move to the Sucrose. And today's build we'll be using Sacrificial Fragments for better elemental mastery buff. It's because most of the time Thrilling Tails are only working as damage per screenshot rotation. And in real rotation it's quite hard to maintain Thrilling Tails buff and very decent Veneer debuff. And yes, for artifacts of course she's using very decent Veneer. Another her utility is elemental mastery buff from her second accession passive and from her first accession passive. And with age 104 this would be 210 elemental mastery buff. And her Constellation 6 will not buff Gaming today. We will infuse her burst with Hydra, so this buff will go for Xingqiu. And the main problem with Sucrose is her buff's uptime. Very decent debuff lasts for 10 seconds and her elemental mastery buffs last for 8 seconds, and this wouldn't be enough to maintain the buff for the full rotation. Now for the Xingqiu, and he is the less problematic one. His build is a full sub DPS with Sacrificial Sword and Emblem set, and even though he is least problematic one, he still have some problems. He is the sub DPS here, and to take the best benefit from it you need to use a lot of normal attacks, and as we all know Gaming is using a lot of time using his burst and his skills, so Xingqiu sub DPS utility will drop for quite a bit here. Good thing his burst lasts for 15 seconds, and with that we wouldn't have any problems to maintain his utility. And right now you are seeing all the buffs on the screen. And let's see how much damage we are doing. So starting with Bennett's skill, Bennett's burst, Swirling Pyro using Sucrose burst, Xingqiu skill, burst, skill, Gaming burst 146, first Gaming skill 123,000, second Gaming skill 121, and third Gaming skill is 63,000 damage, and this is the perfect example. As you can see, in the end our damage dropped quite a bit, and in longer fights we still would need to stay on the field, so we are not wasting our energy management. And I need to mention this, there are some rotations that can avoid these problems, but I don't want to show them because 90% of the time they are not usable in real fights. They are easily interrupted, they are not energy efficient, and they are kinda damage per screenshot type, but in real usable team. Real DPS check. And right now let's test Gamin in real fighting conditions. Right now with Spiral Abyss we have really good punching back and blind Drake. But there is one problem, we need bow character to fight him. And unfortunately Gaming Teams doesn't have bow character in them. So we would need test damage against Ruined Serpent and Setak Vinat. And Gamin's team is not great against these enemies. First of all we have Circle Impact with Bennett and Sucrose. Second thing, his teams are hard setup teams without a lot of cheap damage. But anyways, we'll try to fight these enemies and we'll give Gaming 2 minutes to beat them. Because first half is quite easy right now and can be easily done in 1 minute. And these fights actually went not that great. Ruined Serpent is very random boss with different attack patterns and these attacks has very different vulnerable times. So measuring time on this boss is quite bad idea. But I've done it anyway. So let's see quick recap with the key moments. First rotation starting very good and we are taking half of the boss HP. But after that we are facing one problem. Gaming Teams is not good on knocking down Ruined Serpent. And because of that second rotation it's not doing that much damage because he has very high resistance in this phase. But anyway, this is enough to finish boss in 1 minute 48 seconds and even recover energy for the next chamber. Setak Vinat, and this fight is more predictable than previous one. But for this fight Gaming Teams doesn't have a lot of cheap damage. Gaming is burst reliant, if you want to make a lot of damage you need to make setup, so our main damage will come from the knockdown phase. And on the first knockdown we've made pretty good job, we've took more than half of the Setak Vinat HP. But there is a problem right now, if we cannot finish this boss in one knockdown phase, we need to wait another minute before we can knock him down again. And because of this, time on this boss is not great measurement tool too. But anyways, time for the free-to-play Vaporize Gaming on this boss for me is 2 minutes and 4 seconds. Xianyun Vaporize. And the first question, of course, why do we even want to try Xianyun in free-to-play team? And the answer for that is this banner. If you was getting Gaming from this banner, probably you was pulling for Xianyun. So that's why I'm making 2 free-to-play teams, one with Xianyun and second one without Xianyun for those who pulled on Nahida's banner. And let's quickly look what Xianyun is offering. First of all, activating plunging attacks, and right now on our dime times on the skill, we can use Gaming normal attack plunges. Second thing, buffing plunging attacks, and third thing, small crit rate buff. And now for the build. For the weapon she's using Ospherd Eye, and first I want to start with Viridescent. Viridescent Vinir is very problematic on this team. It's even more problematic than in previous team. And right now I will show you 2 rotations. First rotation like previous, we're starting with Bennett, then we're switching Pyro with Xianyun, then we're going to Xingqiu, so applying Hydra, going to Gaming, and right now the damage will be 156, pretty good damage, but as you can see all of our buffs are gone almost immediately. Xianyun requires more time for the skill and burst than Sucrose, and Bennett's buff is very important for infusion here, but in this rotation we don't have time to make even one normal attack plunge. In second rotation I'm trying to prolong Bennett's buff as possible, that's why I'm applying Hydro with Gaming, then swirling Pyro with Xianyun, then I'm going to Xingqiu, and last would be Bennett. But the problem is, if you right now will see the damage we're doing 122,000, and this means that Viridescent Vinir debuff is already gone, so we have 0 uptime on Viridescent Vinir here. But despite all the problems, for the beginner players Viridescent Vinir still would be her best choice because you can get it from Artifact Strongbox. And the best way to use Viridescent Vinir would be swirling Hydra and ignoring Pyro Swirl. But for me I'm changing her set for the Song of the Days Past, but I'm not recommending to farm this domain for new players because this domain is not energy efficient. And what main benefits we're getting from the Song of the Days Past in this team? First of all, the main beneficent that we're getting is not for Gaming or Xianyun, it's for Bennett, because with this set we can allow the best possible uptime on Bennett's burst. So this set here is not to make Gaming stronger with this buff, the set is here to gain the best possible value from Bennett. The second thing, this set would perfectly in line with our rotation. We'll go Xingqiu, Xianyun, Bennett, and after that Gaming, and by the time we'll go for Gaming this set buff would be activated, and because Gaming staying on the field for quite good time, we can get Song of the Days Past activation twice. And this is completely different story from activating this set once per rotation or twice per rotation. And right now you are seeing all the buffs on the screen. Let's see how this will go. Starting with Xingqiu skill, burst, another skill, then Xianyun skill into the burst, then Bennett skill into the burst, then one normal attack with Gaming, burst, one normal attack and Gaming skill 132,000, second skill 133, normal punch unfortunately doesn't crit, and another 133,000 skill. Pretty nice and consistent damage. And for the real DPS check we will do the same thing. We'll go against Ruined Serpent first, and for the first rotation I was very unlucky on crits. And we've done almost the same damage that I've done with Sucrose. But this doesn't mean that this team has the same DPS, because when we went to the knockdown phase we are almost finished the boss. Yes, Xianyun is pretty noticeable upgrade over Sucrose, but because there is no reason to use burst on any character to finish the boss, I've decided to use only skills for better energy management. And this took quite a lot of time, and because of that we're finished only 1 second faster. And now for the setup, we're not fine. As always, we're using all of our energy at the start, and after that we're trying to chip the boss down and recover our energy for the knockdown phase. And on the knockdown phase with Xianyun we clearly made more damage for the setup winner. Yes, our rotation is longer and more sustainable, but there is a problem. We're not finished him with 1 knockdown. And even though our DPS is higher, we still need to wait for his second knockdown. And 1 minute later, of course, we're finishing him on the second knockdown, but the time is only 1 second faster. Yes, our DPS is higher, but on the winner it doesn't matter. Mono Pyro Gaming. And now we are moving for the free-to-play Mono Pyro team with Sucrose, Bennett and Shangling. And in this team we will be using the same Bennett that we used previously, with Sapwood Blade and full Noblesse, so the buff from Bennett will stay the same. Now let's take a closer look on Shangling. Of course Shangling he built at the sub DPS, with the catch and artifacts full emblem set. And yes, I need to show this, my Shangling is Constellation 6, because this would be very important. And it's because Shangling is making very big part of the team's damage here. And another very important thing, unlike Xingqiu, we're losing 0 sub DPS utility on her. First of all, you don't need to do anything to activate her damage, and second thing, even though Gaming jumping a lot during his presence on the field, this is not affecting Shangling damage at all, because her burst is not a projectile. And if we look closely, her Pyronado will stay on the ground even when we are using plunging attack. And let's not forget about her super utility in Mono Pyro teams. With Constellation 1 we can decrease Pyro resistance of the enemies, and with Constellation 6 we can increase Pyro damage of all our team, and we have very minor buff from the pepper sometimes. Now let's move for the Sucrose. And in this team Sucrose losing her Elemental Mastery utility because we are not triggering reactions. But in this team, unlike previous, we can use Thrilling Tales without losing damage. So instead of Elemental Mastery we are gaining 40 HP attack. For artifacts, of course, very decent veneer, and in this team we can benefit from her Constellation 6. We can infuse her burst with Pyro, and this will increase damage of all our team. And all team sync is very important. Right now you are seeing all the buffs on the screen, and in this team we have 2 DPSs, Gaming and Shangling. And if we look closely on this buff, almost all of them affecting both of our DPSs. Very decent veneer is debuff, Sucrose Constellation 6 is not snapshotable, so this will affect Shangling too. Of course we'll snapshot Bennett's buff with Shangling, and Shangling's buff affecting Shangling too. And even though not all the buff affecting Shangling, but most important ones still do. And that's why I'm loving Mono Pyro team, because buff delivery between teammates is very balanced. But one unfortunate thing for this team would be very poor Bennett's buff uptime for Gaming. But anyway, this would be enough to make some important hits with Gaming before Bennett's buff is gone. And let's see how everything works together. Starting with Bennett burst, skill, catching particles with Shangling, Goba, Sucrose skill into the burst. Now Gaming's burst, first skill 66,000, second skill 68,000, and last skill 68,000. As you can see, Bennett's buff was gone, but we was able to do burst and free skills, which is not a great result, but not the bad result either. For the main DPS check, I've got the worst RNG on the Ruined Serpent. I was trying to make it even and made 3 tries to get attack where he's staying on the field for a long time, but he just refused to do so, and because of that we are not making a lot of damage on our first rotation. But when we're getting for the knockdown phase, that's when things start to change for good. But unfortunately this wasn't enough to finish him. But anyways, his HP was quite low, and at this point we should able to finish him quite fast. But unfortunately he went worst possible attack patterns, and we spent a lot of time just trying to finish him. Yes, chip damage is not strong side of this team, but if you are thinking that DPS of this team is quite bad, set a Queen fight probably can change your mind. Of course, at the start we're using all of our energy and trying to chip him down. But unfortunately we're not doing really great job with that. But everything changing when we're getting for the first knockdown. Yes, overall DPS of this team is pretty high and we're doing more than half of Zeta Queen at HP. But his HP is still too high and we're going for the second knockdown anyway. And yeah, this is the main issue with Winat. And after knockdown we're literally killing him with couple of hits and the time would be 1 minute 59 seconds, which is only 4 seconds faster than previous best result. Xianyun, Mono Pyro. What difference we're getting in the team if we are adding Xianyun instead of Sucrose? First of all, we're using the same Bennett and Shangling, nothing changing here. And what about Xianyun? And we have two ways to do it. In both of these ways we will be using Viridescent Veneer as the artifacts. No Song of the Day Pass because this set designed for buffing hyper carry characters, and in this team we need to buff not only Gaming but Shangling too. So Viridescent Veneer is the main choice here. Now let's look on the first way how we can do it. And the first way will be with the Thrilling Tales. Yes, 40 HP% attack buff is quite good. And what downsides we have here? Xianyun's plunging damage buff based on her attack. And because Thrilling Tales has low base attack and HP percentage as a substat, and we need to use energy recharge stunt with that, we are not having a lot of attack here. But anyway, Thrilling Tales buff will cover up this loss. Another problem would be rotation. In Thrilling Tales rotation we need to use Xianyun before Gaming, and Bennett would be starter of our rotation like in previous team. And because of that we wasn't able to do a lot of normal plunging attack besides Gaming skills. And Xianyun field time is higher than Sucrose, because we need to use her skill plus plunging attack with all animations, and she has 5-star character burst animation. So this is lowering Bennett up times 2. And let's see how everything working together. Starting with Bennett's burst, Bennett's skill, catching particles with Shangling, Goba, Xianyun skill into the burst, so Gaming burst, first skill 78,000, second skill 78,000 again, normal plunge 43,000 and last skill 59,000 because buff is starting run out. Yes, we're having some uptime problems in this rotation. Now let's look on the second way how we can play this team. And in this variant we will give up on Thrilling Tales and we will go with the Earthward Eye. And with this weapon, if you have enough energy recharge, you can use attack sense on her. And because of that we have noticeable attack increase on Xianyun. And her flat attack bonus for plunging attack will be better. And because we're not using Thrilling Tales, we are not too forced to use Xianyun right before Gaming. But this rotation will be longer. We will use Xianyun twice per rotation. We'll start our rotation with Gaming skill, then we'll go for Xianyun skill and burst, and her burst has best duration of all buffs, but the problem that Viridescent Veneer doesn't have good uptime. And because of that, after we'll finish Bennett and Shangling rotation, we would need to go for Xianyun again to refresh Viridescent Veneer debuff with her normal attacks. And with this rotation we'll get decent uptime on Bennett's buff and insane uptime on Viridescent Veneer debuff. And I want to make one remark. Yes, we don't need to swirl right from the start, we can swirl in the end. But we are making first swirl for the Shangling. Her initial burst activation would be already buffed, and while we're rotating, her Pyro still will deal increased damage. Second swirl that we are making in this rotation, this swirl will be for Gaming. Downside of this rotation, it's taking more time. We'll need to wait animation on Gaming skill, and we'll need to use Xianyun twice. Second downside of this rotation, it's most effective against single targets, because on the second swirl we will use Xianyun normal attack and this will hit only one enemy. But overall we're getting way better uptimes on these buffs. And let's see how everything works together. So applying Pyro with Gaming, swirling Pyro, Xianyun's burst, Bennett skill into the burst because we don't need to catch particles with Shangling in this team. Two normal attacks with Xianyun, so Gaming's burst, first skill 76, 79,000, second skill normal plunge 42 and HT2000 last Gaming skill, pretty nice damage. And in this rotation we've managed to do one more Gaming skill and one more normal attack plunge with Gaming while Bennett's burst is running. And for the real DPS check, I went with the Thrilling Tales variant, even though I'm liking second variant more. This was probably a mistake, but the reason I've done so, because these bosses has very short damage windows, and to deal with that I wanted faster rotation. And first rotation doesn't went very well because we wasn't able to took even half of the boss HP. On the knockdown phase, situation will become way more better, and we're leaving him with health that can be chipped down without using full rotation. But everything is not going according to plan. He's starting to use most annoying attacks again, and we're spacing the whole 40 seconds just to finish couple of percents. So the time on this boss is not the great. And now for the setup winner fight, and we already know that chip damage of this team is not great. And because of that, by the time we're getting to the knockdown phase, his HP is still very high. And even though DPS of this team is higher than Sucro's variant, we still cannot one-cycle him. Yes, winner for the 4-star character is still very high DPS check. And because of the low chip damage, we still need to wait for the second knockdown phase just to finish a little bit of HP. So the time on the setup winner with Gaming is almost the same in every team. Melt Gaming. And now let's try a melt variation of Gaming. We'll go with double Pyro and double Cryo. There are some variations with one Cryo character, but I want to be honest, they doesn't work. We don't have consistency with Cryo application here, and they're working only in damage per screenshot rotations. So if you want consistent and really usable team, you need to use double Cryo. And the main idea of this team is not making Gaming very strong. The main idea of this team to have 3 DPSs: Gaming, Rosaria and Kaya. Of course Gaming will be our main DPS, but Rosaria and Kaya should be built as the good sub DPSs too. And here we're using the same Bennett that we used previously, and now let's look on Rosaria. And as I said, Rosaria is using DPS build with the catch and double Noblesse and Blizzard artifacts. Good thing about Rosaria in this team, her burst can snapshot Bennett's buff, and she will output very reasonable amount of damage. Bad thing about Rosaria in this team is the circle impact. If enemy leave the circle, we are losing not only damage, but we are losing consistent Cryo application too. And now let's look on the Kaya. Kaya is built as a sub DPS too with Amenoma, and again double Blizzard, double Noblesse, and because his burst can snapshot too, he will do considerable damage too. And he's actually the main Cryo applier in this team. Another good thing about Kaya, his burst is following you and you don't need to stay in circle. So if enemy leaves Rosaria circle, we are not losing all of our damage and all of our Cryo application. Bad thing about Kaya, his burst is a real projectile that follow you even you in the air. So when we're jumping with Gaming, they will jump with us. And if we're fighting enemy with low hitbox, we can lose some of the Kaya's damage and some of his Cryo application. So yes, the main idea of this team, we're using Bennett's burst, we're snapshotting Bennett's buff with Rosaria and Kaya, and after that we're finishing our rotation with Gaming melt. And as you can see, in this team we don't have a lot of buffs, but because Pyro melt are doing more damage than Pyro wave, Gaming could still output very good damage. And let's see how everything is going together. So Bennett skill into the burst, Rosaria skill into the burst, the same with Kaya skill into the burst, using Gaming's burst 104,000, first skill not critting, second skill 112, and third skill another 112,000 damage. And overall damage is pretty good, but the damage per screenshot was better in Vaporize team. And now for the real DPS check. And I'm actually really love this team. I think this team was my favorite to play. Against bosses, this team played as a fast rotation team because Kaya's burst has only 8 seconds uptime. And after first rotation we haven't done half of the boss HP. But the problem with this boss, we cannot go for the second rotation immediately. So we're just waiting for the knockdown phase. And the knockdown was just terrible for this team, boss just refusing to go down. And we wasted our second rotation to do very minimal damage for the boss. But as I said previously, this team is a fast rotating one. And I just immediately went for the third rotation, even though it wasn't great time for it. But anyways, because every character in this team has very fast skill cooldown, and we literally can rotate with only skills, we was able to finish the boss and recover our energy for the next chamber. And now for the Seta Queenet fight. And here everything went not according to the plan. As always, in the start of the fight I used all of my energy, and I thought that cheap damage of this team would be alright. But our skills was barely scratching the surface, and we haven't done a lot of damage to him before knockdown phase. And I think about this team, we have 2 elements that deal damage, Cryo and Pyro. And to take best benefit from this boss knockdown, we need to destroy one ball with Cryo and second with Pyro. But Rosaria was stealing all the show and knocking this boss with only Crier. So this boss stayed with very high pyro resistance anyway, and because of that Melts was doing only half of their damage, only 60,000. And we wasn't able to make a lot of damage from the first knockdown. And as always we need to wait for the second knockdown phase. And because we hasn't done a lot of damage on the first knockdown, on the second knockdown we still need to do a lot of damage. And because of that we don't have very good time on this boss, 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Overloaded Gaming. Actually, I don't want to include this team in this video, but I think I have to. First reason why I don't want to do it, because plunging attack has a lot of pushback. And if we add overloaded reaction on top of that, fighting some enemies would be really big problem. Second reason why I don't want to do it, because in this team I want Fischl, Bennett, Xianyun and Vaporize. And as we can see, this is already a team and we need to sacrifice something to add Gaming here. And let's try to do something with that. First I tried team with double Pyro and double Electra. And even though this team looks quite strong, but on low middle investment it doesn't pass DPS check. I wasn't even able to kill Darita with one rotation. And remember, today we're trying free-to-play teams with medium investments. And this team can work on higher investments with better artifacts and 5-star weapons. And we can go this variant of the team, but I'm trying to use Bennett less and less. Yes, I know how strong Bennett is, but I've tried of Bennett Circle Impact and his buff up times. So if I have opportunity to use different character than Bennett, I'm trying to use it. And this would be by far my favorite variation of Gaming overloaded team. In this team we'll be using this same Xianyun that we used before. Let's quickly look on the Fischl. Fischl built as a sub DPS with the Stringless and Artifacts Golden Troop. But unfortunately in this team Fischl is not great that you may think. There are two things that make Fischl insanely good character. First, you can utilize her second Assassin passive with electro-related reactions. Second, you're using fast normal attack character for her Constellation 6. But the problem, Gaming is neither of those characters. So in this team Fischl is doing damage with only us regular attacks. And most of the time this is not that great value. But she is still the best 4-star Electro character in the game. And now for the Vaporize. Vaporize is built here as a support with rightful reward and full Noblesse Oblige set. And yes, my Vaporize is Constellation 0, so we will rely only on her base kit, attack percentage buff, and most important, Electra and Pyro resistance decrease. And as you can see, we have some buff here, but this buff is not that strong that we used in previous teams. And let's see how everything working together, starting with Oz, Vaporize burst into skill, Goba, Xianyun's burst, reapplying Oz 2 snapshot buffs, so Gaming's burst 41,000, first skill 42,000, 44,000 second skill, another skill 43,000 and last skill 40,000 damage. Alright, as you can see DPS of this team is decent, but we are not making big screenshot damage. And now for the real DPS check. One thing that I want to mention about this team, it's one of the most comfortable teams to play from this list. We don't have Bennett Circle and Vaporize by far one of the best character for the buff up times. But yes, DPS wise this team is kinda falling down. And our first rotation we wasn't able to took half of the boss HP. Another problem that I witnessed is knocking down Ruined Serpent. But it was my unlucky thing because Vaporize destroying from 2 to 3 parts with her burst only. And this should be easy, right? But for some reason I spent hours and hours trying to knock this boss down even once. And because of that on the second rotation almost all of our damage are going into the resistance. And I've needed full third rotation just to finish this boss. And unfortunately we are getting the worst time with this team against Ruined Serpent. And now for the Zeta Queen at fight. And my investment in this team is not enough. I haven't passed DPS check on this boss. First it started quite good, but every time on the second knockdown phase I wasn't able to finish the boss. I've made couple of the restarts and I've got the same result 9 times in a row. But this fight definitely can be done with slightly better investments or better crit RNG. Conclusion. First, I want to apologize for my regular viewers. I've needed to take a break in the middle of recording this video and this video took me a lot of time to make. And this video is about gaming, so first let's look at the times. Ruined Serpent fight is very RNG dependent and I don't think that this fight is showcasing real DPS. But as we can see, Vaporize teams performed better than other teams. And I think this is because Sing to Rainsford are quite good in knocking down this boss. But if you're using proper team in the first half, you can beat this boss with any variation variation of Gaming. And set a Queen fight is less RNG dependent, but the times are almost the same with every team. And yes, he is not relying source of checking DPS too, because all of this team require 2 knockdowns to finish him, and smaller medium DPS increases is almost not affecting time on this boss. But anyways, mono teams perform better because they are rotating faster than other teams. But why do we even test these teams against bosses if they are not relying DPS check? Because I wanted to test flexibility of these teams. If you put him in bad circumstances, you clearly seeing strong sides and weak sides of the team. And I've tried to describe them during the video. And now let's see on the biggest hits of Gaming skills that we've got today. And yes, Vaporize teams are clearly the winners here. We could make male team on the first place, but as I said previously, today we're trying real usable teams with real usable rotations, not just damage per screenshot rotation to make things look better than they really are. And now for my personal rating. This is the list and let me explain why. First place is between Pyro and Xianyun Vaporize. Pyro team, this system is very easy to play, very easy to rotate and very easy to manage energy. And Pyro team showed the best DPS against Seta Queener. Next is Xianyun Vaporize with Song of the Day's Pass. And yeah, this team is very comfortable to play because of the very good buff uptimes. And DPS wise, this team was performing the best. But we'll not seeing to normal attack problems, we'll know Bennett Circle impact problems, and that's why it's slightly behind Pyro, but both of them are on the first place. Third and fourth place is Vaporize and Mel. I've liked Mel team more because it was way more comfortable to play, but Rosaria and Kaya is not that crucial characters to level up, and that's why standard Vaporize team is placed higher, because Sucrose, Xingqiu, Abenet is more crucial characters. But gameplay wise, I doesn't like this team that much, because all of the problems, buff uptime, wheels, etc. This team is not that comfortable to play. And the next question, why I placed Xianyun Pyro on the 5th place and standard Pyro on the 1st? Because if you have Xianyun, just go for the Xianyun Vaporize variant. In Xianyun Pyro, she is not giving that much upgrades over Sucrose because of the low buff uptimes, very not comfortable and long rotations, etc. And last place is overloaded with Chevres, and I actually very like this team, because we wasn't tied to Bennett Circle, we wasn't tied to very low buff uptimes, and it was very simple and comfortable playstyle. But unfortunately, this team require you to have very good investments on your characters, weapons and artifacts, and because today's video is about free-to-play teams, this team is not free-to-play friendly. And what we have in the end? Gaming is very decent 4-star. In today's video we used him without Furina, and without her you start to notice all his problems, etc. But if you have Furina, he feels way different to play. And Furina gave us illusion that he is very overpowered character. But without her he feels like a 4-star, he plays like a 4-star, and he has DPS of the 4-star character. But don't get me wrong, quite good 4-star character. What you are thinking about free-to-play gaming teams, let me know in the comments, and thank you for the watching, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in my next video.